Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Marketing Interrogation Podcast. Today where our guest is Bob Thibodeau, and I hope I didn't mess up his surname there. And today we're going to talk about how Bob went from knowing nothing to successfully running 3 online businesses. So Bob is a online radio and a podcast coach. And he's also known as the Yoda of Podcasting. So I will let Bob explain what that means. And Bob has produced, I think, around 3,000 episodes of being on podcasts. And today he's going to share some tips on how he does his marketing and how you can also launch your own podcast. Hi, Bob. How's it going?
Hey, man, I appreciate it. It's going great, and I appreciate the opportunity to come and just be of service to you and help your audience.
No, I think this is going to be a great podcast because you are the first person on the show who is going to talk about podcasts.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yes,
okay.
you're first. We had a lot of Facebook ads, LinkedIn. You're the first guy on to talk about on podcasts, so it's going to be really interesting. And me and myself, I'm going to take a lot of notes as well.
Not a problem. Hope I can answer your question.
I'm sure you can, Bob. So to start off, you say you got 3 online businesses. Can you talk a bit about them? What 3 online businesses do you have?
Well, to do that, let me give a quick background. I'm former 12 years Army vet, U.S. Army vet in the cavalry. And then when I got out, I became a police officer. And career was going along great until May 12, 2007. I was injured on the job. And from that day to this, I've had like 30 different medical procedures done, surgeries and all that stuff. And back in 2009, I was recovering from a surgery and bandaged up, couldn't walk around or anything, knee surgery, hip surgery. And I say, what can I do? I was praying, Lord, what can I do? Because they're already talking about retirement and all this stuff. And I said, start a weekly 30-minute online radio program. Well, today we call that a podcast. Okay. I had no clue what I was doing because I had to have help checking email. Okay. I was not technically proficient at all. But with nothing else to do, I just sat there on the computer and, how to do online radio, how to do this. And eventually I found out how to talk into a flip cell phone on a free website, and they saved the file. And that started the whole process.
A flip cell phone? How long ago was that?
2009.
Right.
And about 4 or 5 months after I started doing that, well, I noticed within a couple of months I started getting a following. I was like, whoa, this is kind of cool. And about 4 or 5 months later, I got approached by an AM conglomerate, radio station conglomerate, said, we've listened to your podcast. That's the first time I even knew I had a podcast. So we listen to your podcast. We think you'd be a good fit for the radio station. Would you like to be on nationwide AM radio? I'm thinking, oh yeah, this will work. And the little catch was, these little things I'm learning as I go. I had to pay for it. Just those little details. That was rather expensive, but we negotiated down where I was on 4 major markets all around the U.S., 1 30-minute broadcast a week. And it was okay, because I was still employed and we were doing everything. But then about 6 months into that, I got a letter in the mail, congratulations on your retirement. And now I'm living on 50% of the income, and that $700-800 a month is a huge, draw on what was left. But, we were halfway through the contract, so I had to keep it up. But it was actually a blessing because I learned about sound quality. I learned about time management. I learned about, having my radio voice, all this stuff, right? And how to load servers, how to edit files, how to load servers for radio play and all that. And towards the end of the contract, one day I was praying and I was going to start a Christian online radio station. Now, again, I had no clue what that meant. I mean, none at all, because, I'm barely keeping up with what I found out as a podcast, right? And but we started researching and found out nobody, there were Christian radio stations, online radio stations, like on Live 365, stuff like that, but they were playing music. Some were just conglomeration of podcasts, but no true online radio station that would run like a traditional radio station. Now you got iHeart and all these other things. There wasn't anything back there. So we started research, we put it together, and almost immediately our popularity started to grow. And within about 2 years, we were rated #1 in the world by shoutcast.com.
Oh, wow.
And we started getting people sending us files, and now at one time we had like 70 some broadcasters sending us files every week. We're down to like 55 or something like that right now. But that really taught me about how to manage online media, I guess you could say, because you get all these files coming in and you have to keep them categorized and in their separate folders and I mean editing the files, and it was a full-time gig. But I started a podcast just as a way to interview the broadcasters, and some weren't interested in doing an interview, and some did, but they weren't really that good at it, so I just let it go. But that first year, 2017, I only did probably 25 interviews for the whole year. And I go back and listen to them now and like, oh Lord, what was I thinking? But then I got approached by a book publicist and said she had an author releasing a book. Would I like to do an interview? I said, yeah, sure. And that led into what we're doing now. I interview authors, musicians, online marketers, traditional marketers, nonprofit leaders, business leaders. And if it can relate to the Christian niche and my audience, I'll interview. And that's now all we do. We still have the radio station, but as far as the podcast interviews, that's all we do. I just don't get on there and talk about stuff. It's all it is interviews. And for the last 3 years, I think today I recorded number 743, episode 743 in 3 years. And I've done 650 interviews, I guess. I do my own radio program each week. That is do an hour long on Sunday, and that's 5 days during the week. So over the last 10 years, because we flipped the switch on the radio station in 2010, it's got to be over 4,000 individual episodes now.
Wow.
During that time. And
that's incredible.
But that's how I got into podcasting. Was I was recovering from surgery and couldn't walk around or do anything else, and I was like, well, what can I do? And you start where you're at with what you have and where you're at. I had a flip cell phone, and I found a free website on the internet, and that's where I started. And now I got the whole, you can see the background, the green screen, and I got the microphone on the boom arm and all that. But business is good.
Right. So you have 3 online businesses. So you talk about your ministry podcast,
the ministry radio station, and then the podcast, and actually the 4th one, because on February 25th, we launched our own Christian podcast hosting platform called faithcasters.net. Again, doing the market research, there was nobody marketing exclusively to the Christian niche. They're all going to the traditional, Podbean, Libsyn, Buzzsprout, and all that. And you're just lumped into religion and spirituality, but they're not doing any special marketing for you or anything like that. So it took us 2 years to develop the platform. And we officially launched 1 week before all this virus stuff hit. Talk about market timing, right?
That's a good omen.
But so that is growing now. So that's the 3rd business, and the 4th one is the podcast training system that we have to help people start their podcast. And how that came about, because I'm online and in podcasting. I would be asked quite well, how can I start podcasting? Tell me how to do it. What kind of microphone? What platform should I use? And how do I edit files? And my lightning fast mind took about 2 years to figure this out. That I was being asked the same questions over and over and over again. That's where I said, well, to save me time from having to answer 20 questions a week, I just created what I call my podcast creation checklist. I'd send it, they'd ask a question, I'd send it to them, and say, just follow the checklist from point one all the way down to the bottom. When you get to the bottom, you got a podcast.
Oh, excellent.
Then the only questions I was getting was, I'm stuck on this part. How do I do this? I'm confused. And then I get on and help them. And again, over the course of about 6 months or so, I realized, you know what? This could be another business that I could have on the side besides everything going on. And that's what started the podcast training program.
Okay.
So
I just want
managed
to go back to your point before. You said you had a podcast hosting for Christians.
For Christian podcast.
I use Libsyn. So what is the difference actually? Can you explain a bit?
Well, the marketing concept that we're using, okay, is, Libsyn's great. I mean, it's one of the oldest ones and the most stable. It's the biggest one. And Podbean and Buzzsprout, they all have their marketplace. What we were looking at is just like with the radio station, we wanted to market exclusively to the Christian podcasters, because what happens is you go to Libsyn or Podbean or any of them, you go into the search bar and you'll find religion and spirituality as a category. So you click on that and there are Christian podcasters in there. There's also, Muslim, Hindu, atheists, agnostics, Wiccans, fortune tellers, psychics. They're all grouped in that one category. Mm-hmm. And these secular companies, Libsyn, Podbean, all them, they're not going to create a marketing package exclusively for each one of them. So it's just generic marketing, and it's up to you to individualize it. Well, the same thing we found out with a radio station. If we offer a, what they call niching down in internet marketing, we niche down to a specific group, and that's the only ones we're going to target. And with the radio station, I mean, it paid off. We shot up within just a couple of years of being number one in the world, and in the Christian talk genre. And the same thing as we did the market research on the podcast hosting platform, that there would be a need. And, it took us, like I said, 2 years to build it out. We had some divine connections with John Lee Dumas and Mark Asquith, and they're because I was part of their podcast websites, and we got to meet a couple of times and explain what we're doing, and they kind of took me under their wing a little bit, and they helped us build this thing out. And we use, for the actual hosting, like you already have a host. We'll just use you as an example. You're using Libsyn, you're happy with Libsyn, you don't want to change from Libsyn, everything's all that, and you're set up, no problem. But yet you want to use our marketing platform. Okay. So there is a way for us to just put a link to your existing podcast on our platform. So if someone sees you in the search results and clicks on it, they've taken straight to your podcast site already. But if, John Smith comes in and says, I'm creating a podcast and I want to be part of your platform, no problem. Then we can also host that. And we have a setup through Captivate.fm, which is the hosting platform that we use. And that allows them to host it there. And then because everybody has different avenues and different requirements for their marketing needs, we have different packages that they can purchase. And, we can help them edit the files. I can add intros and outros. I can actually load their files to their hosting platform if they're hosting through us. I mean, so there's so many different packages that we have to try and fit everybody's needs. Mm-hmm. But we market exclusively just to those Christian podcasters. We've zeroed in just on that niche. So.
Okay. From hearing your story, it seems that everything has gone really smooth. And so I wanted to ask you, can you share some of your struggles like along the way and anything which you found particularly hard and how you overcome it? Just give us the listeners some ideas of what to expect.
Whew, man. The hardest one I had was I had nobody to teach me. Okay.
Right.
And I did it all by trial and error.
Oh, that would take a long time.
Yeah, I would Google it and research it, and sign up for training programs. And, I still remember one. It was, I'm just going to guess at the number right now, but I'll say it was $297, and there was like 100 videos and cover every aspect of podcasting. You know, you buy these videos and then you start here, and I did. You know, I figure, okay, this will really help me. That way I don't have to search anymore. I just go straight through the videos, right? Each video is about 20, 30 minutes long, and they cover a different aspect of podcasting. Wow. There's 100 of them. Do the math, right? 50, 60 hours
yes,
of sitting here watching videos, and I made it through probably 10 videos and said, this is so boring. You know?
Definitely, yes.
And you know, that's just one example, you know, that I spent the money trying to learn, and, you know, I'd hire, you know, buy somebody's, you know, PDF and, you know, things like that. But I didn't really have any one-on-one. They offered one-on-one, you know, for more money than what I was willing to spend. But it was basically self-taught. And when you're self-taught, you make a lot of mistakes. And the mistakes are learning experiences also. Okay?
Yeah.
Someone once asked Thomas Edison when he invented the light bulb. He said, you know, how many versions of the light bulb did you try until you found the one that worked? He said, oh, about 20,000. Because that's 20,000 failures. Did you ever get discouraged? He said, why would I be discouraged? I found 20,000 ways not to try anymore. You know, and that's kind of the direction I came at it from. Like, whoa, no, that didn't work. Okay, don't do that anymore. And until I found, oh wow, oh that worked. Okay, cool. And then I'd use that for a little bit. Now, how can I make this better? You know, and it took a couple of years. I go back and listen to those first episodes. You know, even when I was doing interviews, and I was like, good Lord, what was I thinking? You know, why did anybody even listen to this? But,
no, I had the same thing with my blog articles. Looking back 10 years ago, you think, oh my God, what was I thinking? That was like so poor. But anyway, back to your point about learning by yourself. I mean, self-taught is obviously the cheapest, and when you purchase information, but you're paying it with your time.
Oh yeah,
that is one of my biggest regrets as well, Bob, and that is not getting someone to help me, like one-on-one or whatever, like more personal coaching. Wasted so much of time doing it by yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, it took me, if I would have, gotta remember, I was transitioning from having a job with a stable income that took care of all the needs to living on a reduced budget. And that's really how I went online, you know, in the online, you know, because you fall for the hey, buy this program, make $1 million by next weekend type thing. And found out that that's not the way it is. But that's how I signed up for some of those training programs and things like that. But you know, I probably wasted. I've never figured it up because I'd be so discouraged, but it had to be $10,000 or $20,000 over 10 years. I mean, you know, it's big money.
This is exactly how I feel as well. I never go back and add up how much I've spent. I just don't want to know.
I just don't want to know. It was a little bit here, a little bit there, but if I added it up, I'd probably start drinking again.
Looking back at your business now, apart from having someone to guide you, or a coach or a mentor, what else would you have done differently to like make a lot more progress?
Invest in the software up front, because when I first started, like I said, it was talking on a cell phone, and there was no editing. And when I first started taking it serious, I transitioned from a cell phone to a boom, you know, the muffle, you know, headphones with the boom mic. And wow, what a difference in sound quality.
Sorry, Bob, I just want to stop you there. You did a podcast with a cell phone at the start?
Yeah, remember I said talking on the flip cell phone on a free website. That's how I started.
Right. Okay, because sorry, I didn't know that it was before my time, before I started, so I didn't know those existed.
Yeah, I would say the website name. I don't even know if they're still in existence.
Okay.
But the
So what was that? What was that thing you invested in?
the headset with the boom microphone, you know,
Okay.
and the sound quality was like, whoa, that was tremendous. I mean, why didn't I do this before? And when I did that, the quality of the program got better. I still had no way of playing intro or outro music, so I would take the microphone off and play it, hold it in front of the speakers, and play a MP3 file, right? And because I remember, I'm learning as I go with this. I didn't know this stuff, and then that's how I started. And then I got a person who knew about IT stuff. That was the biggest step forward that I had ever taken. And he came in and he showed me, well, let's, this microphone's fine, and the other setup you got's fine. Let's invest in a snowball microphone, the little
yes.
snowball one. So I did that. Sound quality, whoa, this is even better,
Yeah.
And then he said, you have a Mac, you have GarageBand on there. I go, what's GarageBand? I have no clue. So he introduced me to GarageBand and showed me how to use it. And the funny thing is, every time I went to edit a file for probably 2 months. Now remember, at the time I'm only doing weekly publications, so every week for 2 months, I call him up on the phone. Okay, how do I use this again? Okay, how do I do this? And he started walking me through the process. And after about 2 months, I started just through repetition, learning how to do edits myself, right? And but that was probably the biggest investment that I made that really paid off, huge dividends.
Yeah.
I still call him from time to time. Usually when something crashes and I can't figure out how to reboot it and get it going, and he'll jump on with a screen share. I see his little mouse cursor go, okay, try it now. Right. That thing is fixed. But that was huge. Get somebody who knows what they're doing and have them show you how to get better. That's a huge investment right there. And it wasn't that expensive now looking back at it. I wish I would have done it 2 years sooner.
From hearing about my client stories, I noticed that a lot of them would have made a lot of progress if they had the tech, if they had someone to sort out the tech for them.
Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
they spent so much time figuring out how to click these buttons or do whatever, and they're not focusing on really producing what is their business about.
Yeah, exactly.
So, get the tech sorted out.
One of my clients just yesterday send me a file, and he's like, I don't know how to make this better. And the first question I asked, Mac or PC, because there's different platforms you use. He said, it's a Mac. Like, let's do a Zoom call, screen share, boom, 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 boom. And within 20 minutes, he was up and running. He was, man, I am so glad I have you as my coach.
He would have probably spent a day or 2 days trying to figure it out by himself.
And may not even found it out then. I mean, it took me, weeks to figure out how to do stuff, So, and like I said, trial and error. Oh, yeah, okay, that didn't work.
Yep. So
invest in a program or a software program and find out it's for PCs only. I mean, I got Macs.
Being self-taught, you're paying with your time. I always say that you're paying a lot with your time.
This is true.
So, how do you market your business? I think that's one of the most interesting things people want to know about. I mean, because you seem to go from being on a radio show, being very popular, but for your own podcasts, like, how do you just throw out a show, or do you do anything to market them?
Well, when I first started the podcast, let's back up to the radio station, because that led into the podcast. It was just really word of mouth on the radio station, contacting pastors in the area that I knew. I was in touch with several large national ministries, because when I attended Bible college back in 98, 99, and I got a job right off the bat with a national concert ministry. And we would hold concerts in these larger churches, venues. So I got to be introduced to those pastors and all that. So I had some contacts for the radio station moving forward when we first launched. And probably 10 or 15% of those actually came on our platform. And then as we would market it just through Facebook ads and things like that, our audience grew, of course, and that led into them contacting us, other ministries contacting us. So over I guess it was 8 years or so, we were just doing radio before I actually started the podcast, that aspect of it. I had grown a contact list. So when we started doing interviews, I'd contact the broadcasters on our platform. Hey, I'm doing a podcast to interview you about, your ministry, blah, 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 like that. Would you be interested? And that's how I started developing the contacts for the podcast itself. Just email marketing, my existing list. Mm-hmm. Then once I ran through that list, I started, doing Facebook ads and all that. And remember, we were not charging for any of this at the time. I was not charging anything for the radio station. I was just relying on, the generosity of others to keep it going. And, but the nice thing is from number one, October 2010 to this day today, the budget's met every month. We do charge now a small fee because we grew so large that I had to start hiring, some help, and I had to pay them. Mm-hmm. But the podcast itself just started from emailing my existing contact list, my existing marketing list, and then through word of mouth, hey, I see Pastor so-and-so's on your, I have a ministry. Can I be on your radio station? Yeah, sure. Would you like to also be on, since you're coming on the radio station, can I interview you for the podcast? Oh yeah. And then they share it with their social media, and that's really what grew my podcast, was the concept of when I do interviews with other people and they promote it to their social media following, some of those will subscribe to the podcast. Some of those will reach out to be interviewed on the podcast. Some of those will reach out to be on the radio station. So, I learned within probably a year that how to leverage other people's audience to help grow my audience. And that's what really started the growth of our podcast.
Okay. So it's really depending on your guests, relying on your guests to promote it to their peers or to their list. And also you really you stuck to his schedule, right? You did it regularly, interviewing guests. It wasn't something like, I'll do it once a week, then probably once next month. How regular was it that you were doing your podcasts?
When I first started, it was hit and miss. If I didn't have anybody to interview, I didn't do any that month. If I had one person, I did one. That was it. And if I, had 6, I did 6. But it was just a publication once a week. I published every Tuesday, and that was the first year. But like I said, then I got asked to do an author who was publishing a book, and that led to another author, and then another author, and a publicist says, hey, I got a guy releasing a CD. Would you like to interview them? Yeah, sure. And next thing I know, I'm getting all these people contacting me. Hey, I'd like to do an interview. I'd like to do an interview.
Great.
And that groomed my interview skills. It groomed the time management aspect of the podcast. It groomed the ability to edit the podcast files quickly and efficiently instead of taking half a day. I hired out for the intro and outro instead of me just talking. Let me listen to this. Boom. Hello everyone, this is Bob Thibodeau. That actually has an intro, an outro. I hired out and got that done with voiceover artists and just zeroing in on becoming more professional. Mm-hmm. And that led to more people wanting to be on. But it all really started taking off when the light bulb moment went on, when I interviewed a very popular minister, and they shared it, and all of a sudden I seen my downloads just skyrocket. I mean, over what they were, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 episodes to hundreds. And I was like, whoa, what happened? Okay, let's analyze this. What was the difference? Well, naturally, he's a huge ministry, so that's obviously it. Oh, they must have shared it. And that's when, okay. And That's how now. But that's one avenue. I still post every episode. I make a graphic, and I post it on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and on LinkedIn. Every one. And that's something we started recently, and that's also caught on. And I think that's part of the reason why now we're being approached, even in this virus pandemic, when a lot of businesses are slowing down. We're more visible because people are online right now, and like, oh wow, yeah, let me contact them, see if I can do an interview. And my schedule is getting booked out, and so it's working.
I'm looking at your room now. We've got a lot of interesting equipment, I see. So why don't we do this? Can you explain the sort of equipment that you're using now for your podcast?
Yep. I have a Blue Yeti microphone.
Okay, all right, same as mine. I've got a Blue Yeti as well.
Yep. And I got it on a boom arm, right? So I can put it up right there, right? And it goes, so I can swing it out of the way when I'm not doing an interview, and to keep it out of my face while I work. I have 2 computers, 2 servers, 3 monitors, 2 printers. Because this computer over here and monitor is strictly for my edits, because that way I can still be doing other stuff without slowing down my computers. This one is just strictly for edits and as a backup. If something was to happen where, sometimes you're getting ready to do something and you click it up, it says, we're in the middle of an update. It'll be 2 hours and 12 minutes before you can use this computer type thing, if that ever happens, I can swing right over and use this as a backup. Or if I'm doing something on here and I want to see what it looks like, sometimes I'll do a training. I'll do a video training. I did one a couple weeks ago about how to live stream for churches. And while I'm doing the Zoom recording and the Facebook Live on these 2 monitors, I wanted to make sure that it was working so I could pull it up and see what everybody else is seeing. Because sometimes you do a screen share and you click the wrong button and all they're seeing is this blank screen, nothing happening. So I use that as my video monitor when I'm doing that type of training. So,
what about for your? You said you're using the Blue Yeti microphone. So what software are you using? Audacity to mix it, or
GarageBand.
GarageBand. Okay.
Yep.
Right. Okay. Anything else? Those soundproof boards you got on your...
Say again? The soundboards?
Yeah, soundboards.
Sound tiles. Yeah, believe it or not, it really made a difference. My daughter will come in every once in a while, and she'll walk in here, and as soon as she walks in, whoa, this really does make a difference in the sound. Not the looks. I mean, the looks are great too, but she's talking in the hallway, and she comes in here, and it's just, it silences the echo effect. They really work. I recommend them. I had, matter of fact, you can probably see it. I still use an additional one. Well, this is the microphone. Here's one right here sitting behind the microphone.
Okay.
Because the monitor is right there. So that'll help cut down on the reflective voice coming off of the monitor. So that's just what I have behind my microphone to help just that little bit more. Because right now it's all about quality. That's what I try and stick to the quality.
Can you share some tips for anybody who wants to start their own podcast, just so that they're on the right track?
Number 1, know what you're going to talk about. Okay. That's the first thing I tell people when they say, I want to start a podcast. Great. What are you going to talk about? Well, I was thinking about talking about this or that. Okay. Do you have experience in that area? Right. I mean, I would love to talk about, I'll just make something up. Fixing classic cars. Right. I know nothing about fixing up. But if it's a popular, online, this is a popular thing right now, and I want to do a podcast on that. Okay, why would anybody want to listen to you? Right? So it has to be something that you are good at. Now, you don't have to be an expert. I am not an expert in audio mixing and, doing all this fancy stuff that, with Audacity and Camtasia and all this other stuff. But let's say use regular school as an example, kindergarten to college graduate. Well, I started off in 2009 in kindergarten. I had a hard time using a crayon and writing my name online, right? But over time, I got to the point where now I could be like at high school level and tutor elementary and middle schoolers. I just had to know more than they did, right? And now, I'm in no way am I in a league with, some of these professional guys that have teams of 100 people behind them and things like that. That's, doctor's degree level in college. I'd say right now I'm at in the college graduate level as far as what I'm doing. But just like in college, you can go in and study accounting, right? You can go all the way through college, get a doctorate in accounting, and you're good at accounting. But you don't sit at home one day and say, you know what? I have to have 1,000 clients come in order to make $1,000 a year or $100,000 a year. If I was a heart surgeon, I could make that much in a month. I mean, I've got a doctor's degree. They call me doctor. I'm just going to go down to the emergency room and say, hey, I'm here to do heart surgeries today. Right? That's not going to happen. They will not allow you in. You may try it. That's not going to happen. Well, really, when you do your podcast, it's the same thing. What are you good at? You don't have to have a degree in auto mechanics. You may be a backyard auto mechanic that you've done since you were a teenager fixing up your car. And you may be an accountant in your full-time job, but your hobby is auto mechanics, or your hobby is golf. And when people come visit your office or you see them out of store, they end up asking you, well, I keep hitting a slice on when I go play golf. Well, close your left foot just 1/4 of an inch, and that should straighten it out. And they seek your advice on what. So that's the first question I'll ask people is, what is the thing that most people will ask your help with? And like I say, you may be a doctor, you may be a lawyer, you may be an accountant, but your clients come in and say, hey, doc, I shot 82 the other day, and they say, well, that's good, but if you, use this type of club and close your grip 1/4 of an inch, you're going to get 10 extra yards out of your drive. What is it they're asking your help with? Now, you could be a doctor, you could be a heart surgeon and have a podcast about, hearts and, all that stuff. But if you wanted to do something different, just as a hobby or, a side income, what is it people ask your help with? And that should be your niche. So that's number one. What is it you're going to talk about? Number two, do you know more than the average person? That's all you have to have. More knowledge in it than the average person. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be a PhD in it. You just have to know more than someone who's just starting off. If your hobby is, restoring classic cars or old cars, and someone says, I want to start, restoring this old 57 Ford that I bought. How can I do that? They can come seek you, and that's a good starting place. Okay. But you need to know more than the person just starting off. So those are the two big ones right there.
What about, do you think they should invest in the equipment right away?
Start with what you have. Okay. Do not go out and invest hundreds or even thousands of dollars in equipment. If you have a laptop, a PC laptop, and it has a camera on it and a way to, and most of them do, most of them will also have a microphone recording system included in it. Start with that. You don't have to go out and spend a couple $100 on a microphone setup, because and this is just to be completely honest with people, the average person starting a podcast won't get 7 episodes in before they make the decision, this is something I want to keep doing, or
it's not right for me.
Yep. And if you spent $200, $300, $400, $500 on a microphone and, a soundboard, mixer, and, to sound good, and all the software and all the training and all that. And you get 10, 12 episodes in and decide, I don't feel like doing that today. And then the weekend comes, I'm not going to do it this way. I'll do it next week. Next thing you know, this microphone thing is just a hat rack, an expensive hat rack.
Right.
You don't need that. So start where you are at. Start with what you have, and then see if you like it or not. If, like I did, once you got into it, and like, wow, this is really cool, I'm enjoying this, and wow, I got followers. Wow, people are actually listening to me. This is amazing. Then start looking at, well, how can I sound better? What can I do to improve? That's when you start small investments, small stuff. You don't have to go out and spend $500 on a brand new, Rode Podcaster microphone. Start within your budget and just gradually go up. But
great advice. Great. Okay, can you talk about what do you think are the reasons for your success? Why do you think your shows have been so successful?
Persistence.
Right. As in doing it even when you don't feel like it.
Yeah, and that's one advantage of doing it where I'm interviewing other people instead of just me sitting down and see. Here's a living example. It's a modern day example, right? I went. This is 2020 at the time of this recording. In late 2018, I started doing a series of videos. I made 19 videos on podcast training, and they were current at the time. Each one was between 30 and 45 minutes long, and I charged $197 for the training, just the video training. And that was 2 years ago. Things have changed in 2 years. I've gotten better. I've got better techniques. So starting in January, I decided, what, this year I'm going to redo those videos and, make them more current. But instead of 35, 45 minutes each one, I'm going to keep them like 15 minutes each and might have 30 videos, right? But I learned from that package that I told you I bought, where everyone's like 45 minutes to an hour long and there's 100 of them. I don't want to do that. I'm going to keep it like 15 minutes. Like, this is how you add an intro and outro to your file, and it'll be screen share, boom, 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 boom. That's it. So 15 minutes, it's done. Then they can go and implement, right? I have not yet started those videos. And I've been planning it since January, right? Because I get involved in so many other things that I got going on that, even the podcast training platform, I decided, what? I have to force myself to do this. So I started marketing the podcast training platform because I hadn't marketed it in probably 7-8 months. So I started marketing and people started signing up for it. So now I'm committed to doing a weekly live training with them. I mean, they have access to, all the other training, but I also explained to them, I'm going to redo all these videos. And I'm going to send you a link where you can come and watch me do it live every week. I'm not going to do it every, 6 hours a day until it's completed. I'm going to do one video a week, right? Just to get it done. It might take the rest of this year to finish it. Or if it's 15 minutes each, I might do 2 trainings in one session. But that commits me. I'm committed now because I have people paying me to do it, right? And I'm committed to them to make sure it happens. And it's the same thing with doing the interviews. When I was just hit and miss, I went, yeah, okay, if I get one, I get one. If I do one, I do one. It doesn't really matter one way or another. Oh, yeah, okay, I can do an interview for you, But now I put a scheduler out there where someone can just, out of the blue, like, yeah, how do I, and the scheduler link is on my website, right, on the podcast website. So they go to listen to the podcast and, oh, wow, I could schedule an interview too. Click, and I'll wake up in the morning and have three interviews scheduled. Right. They got to do it at least 2 days prior, so I have time to prep. But I mean, whoa, okay, wow, I got 5 interviews now next week, and I'm committed to it. So I have to do it. You
Mm-hmm.
know? And I think over the 3+ years I've been doing this, last winter, I got the flu really bad for about a week. I mean, my voice is all like this. I could barely talk type thing, right? And I had to reschedule like 3 or 4 interviews. And that was the first time in years that I had to do that. And everybody, oh, no problem. I understand, you know, feel better type thing. And I just emailed them and let them know. But, you know, when I have something scheduled, it's got to be something drastic to get me to have to reschedule it, because I just don't reschedule anything. This is someone who took the time to believe in what I'm doing and to be part of it. I'm committed to them. So that's the persistent part.
This reminds me of what happened today. Today I felt really, really bad because I've got hay fever.
Mm-hmm.
It was so bad I wanted to call off this interview. And it was, but I scheduled it with you. I think it was about 1 or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So immediately, this was the first time I had it so bad, by the way. So I told my wife to get whatever she could. And I felt great 2 hours later after she bought this. So here we are. So without this scheduled interview, I'll probably be, I don't know, stayed in bed or something, or watch the TV.
Yeah, exactly. And the only reason I rescheduled those interviews I was telling you about is because I couldn't talk. But I've done interviews where I had a stuffy nose and and was not feeling 100%. I was feeling like 60-70%. But I'm gonna go through it, and I'm gonna be energetic just like I normally am. I'm gonna go, and then as soon as we're done, okay, well, have a great day. Click. But I had to reschedule those 3 or 4 because my voice was just gone. I mean, it would have sounded absolutely terrible, Right. And as a matter of fact, when I rescheduled, you sent me an audiogram type thing. Remember when you confirmed the form, you sent me a little audio file? That's what I did for them. I'm sorry, but I have to reschedule. And that's like, oh, no problem, because they didn't want to talk to me either.
Yeah, but when you have something scheduled and it's with someone else, something you can't really like delay or postpone, then that's a great way to push forward and be persistent with what you're doing.
And what I tell people, and this is part of the training that I give people, I'll just throw this out there. I've interviewed some, what's the word? Huge influencers in whatever their niche is, online marketing and the ministry. I just did an interview this morning with a pastor. If I said her name, everybody would know instantly who she was. I mean, she is, like huge on all the television networks and all this. She's releasing a book. They reached out to me to be on my podcast. I mean, that's that's how visible now I am becoming in the Christian niche. They reached out to me to interview her. So I'm like, sure, no problem, Now, a person like that, and that's just an example, but I've interviewed CEOs of, billion-dollar corporations, that are Christians, that, hey, we give back to the community and all this stuff. And these CEOs, if you walked into their office building and said, I'd just like to sit down with, so-and-so for a little bit and ask them some questions, right? Like you're interviewing me today, right? What are your odds of getting into his office? Very, very minuscule.
Yeah.
Right. He has so many levels of people that are designed to screen you out, right? Because his time is precious. So when they are coming on this podcast, this guy has set aside an hour of his day just to talk to you, right? Unprecedented access to this person.
Yeah. That
nobody else can get. And what does he do? He tells his secretary, no calls, no interruptions, right? That 1 hour of his day that he could charge $200,000 if it was coaching or something like this. I mean, he has given that time to you. You know, yeah, I'm committed to doing that interview. And I've had some of them reach out afterwards and say, I've done probably, 25, 30 of these interviews in the past month, promoting a book or something like that. It goes, yours was absolutely the best interview that I had. And I just wanted you to know that. And I'm going to have our staff just publish this far and wide when it comes out, and that helps grow this podcast.
Yeah.
But that's why I tell people, think about it like that. This person, like this pastor that I just got done interviewing, I mean, if I just call, as a matter of fact, I know people who have called our office trying to do an interview. Never heard back from them, right? They reached out to me. So I set aside that time. Now, it was supposed to be a 20-minute interview, right? We started reaching the end of the 20 minutes. She wasn't done talking yet. We went 45 minutes. She went over to conclude, to do the complete interview for us. But, if I would have just reached out to them out of the blue, I'd never gotten access.
So this has all to do, would you say, with your authority or your, how would you say it, your reputation of your podcast? Would you say that that's the reason?
I would say, yeah, reputation's probably good.
It wasn't because she had a referral or someone referred you. It was because of truly based on your reputation. Is that right?
I don't know what brought them to me. I just got an email about 2 weeks ago, and they said she's releasing a new book, and we'd like to know if you would like to do an interview with her. And I said, absolutely. And what I do, I said, here's the link to my scheduler. And the same thing, you sent me your link to your scheduler, but if you're going to be on my podcast, I'll send you a link to my scheduler and say the standard line, and everyone, here's a link to my scheduler. Just pick a date and time that's convenient for you that shows me is available and book it. That's it. And then after you hit submit, another link will pop up with an information form. Just complete the information form, because that's what helps me prepare for the podcast, just like you did, right? Okay. And and that's what, hey, would you like to do an interview with her? Sure. Here's the link to my scheduler. Just pick a date and time that's good for her and book it. And by the way, after you submit it, there will be a link to the information form that helps me prepare for the interview. And 2 days later, I had this thing booked, and it was for today.
How long do you work, Bob? Or a better question, what's your daily routine like for your business?
I usually get up between 5 and 5:15 in the morning.
Oh, early rising.
Yeah, that's from my military days. That's still left over. That's 40 years ago, but I still get up early. And the first, I have a training, and it's called, I don't want to get into it because it'll take me a half hour to explain it, but the training is how 1 cup of coffee can change your world. And it's all a result of my cavalry days, where you break down whatever task you have. If you're trying to make a new squeeze page, if you're trying to make a new podcast, break it down in whatever it is you're trying to do. Break it down into a minimum of 3 tasks, maximum of 5. And the reason I pick 4 and a cup of coffee is because what does it take to make a cup of coffee? Well, first you have to have coffee. If you don't have coffee, you don't have coffee, right? If you have tea, you don't have coffee, you got tea. So you have to have coffee. Number 2, you have to have water, because if you have coffee but no water, I mean, I guess you could use chewing grounds, like chewing tobacco or something, but that'd be pretty nasty, right? So you have to have water. Number 3, you can have coffee and water, but the water's in the stream and the coffee's in your hand. What are you going to do? You have to have a container to put the water in. So you have to have coffee, water, and a container, and then you need heat to make the coffee. If you don't have those 4 elements, you do not have coffee. Now, the quality of the coffee is the interaction of those 4 elements. I mean, some people like it piping hot, some people like it lukewarm, Some people like it strong, some people like it weak, So that's the mixture of those four elements that determines the quality of the coffee. Now, any outside things like cream, sugar, flavoring, all that, that's peripheral stuff, right? That is individual tastes, okay? But to have a cup of coffee, right, you have to have those four elements. And that's the training when I do speaking at conferences and business conferences and things like that. That's what I tell people. That's what I teach. Now, each one of those elements can have 3 to 5 sub-elements. But if you take that first 15 minutes every morning, and that's what I do. I get 5:15. I'll let the dogs out and sit there with my cup of coffee, and what do I have to do today? And this is where I start my plan, right? And I learned that in the military. If our wake up time for the troops was 5 a.m. and PT was at 6, I got up at 4 and had my cup of coffee, and I'm planning my day. Okay, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. So when I go in and make sure they're up and running, they're getting up. I'm already an hour to an hour and a half ahead of them in my plan. They're getting up wondering how they're going to get out of work today. I've already got their whole day planned, right? So after, okay, you go here, you're going to do this. You're going to go here, you're going to do this. And they're still in the foggy zone, and like, oh, okay, and off they go, right? So now I use that same plan in what I do. So my first 15 minutes, I get 5:15. First 15 minutes is, what do I need to do today? And I narrow it down to 4 major items. Okay, if I have to do 2 interviews, that's really only 1 item. I have to do these interviews, right? I have to set the radio station servers for the day. That's 2. I have to do edits for tomorrow. There's 3. I have to do a training program for the podcast training platform. There's 4. Okay, those are 4 main elements today. Now, the different steps, what I have to do for the podcast training platform. Okay, first I got to do the keynote slide deck. Okay, then I got to set the time to do the recording. Then I got to load it to here, so there's different elements underneath that, but it all revolves around those 4 things. So that's my first thing that I do, is first 15-20 minutes zeroing in on the tasks for that day. Then I usually go downstairs. Well, then I come into the office and spend about an hour in Bible study and prayer time. And then I go downstairs and I do an hour workout in the workout area downstairs, then shower and all that. So my day really starts about 9 o'clock in the morning. Now, we haven't had any doctor's appointments or anything like that since all this pandemic stuff started, but that I try and do all those appointments first thing in the morning. That way, once I get diving in on business, I don't get interrupted for having to, go out somewhere and all that. So if there's nothing going on, then that starts my day from 9 o'clock. Usually about 1:30, 2 o'clock, I have to step away from everything for a little bit because I'm starting to get burned out and I need a break. So I'll take the dogs my wife and I'll go work, take the dogs for a walk and stuff like that. If she needs to run to the store, we'll do that. And then I come back and I'm diving in till dinner time. And then, after dinner, I'll watch a half hour of the news. That's all of the news I watch in a day, about a half hour at dinner time. And I figure if something major's gone on, I'll hear about it through text message or something, text alert. But for the most part, that's the only news I'll watch. And I'm back in here getting everything set up for the next day, as far as setting up the radio station, loading the existing, for tomorrow's episodes to the platform and all this stuff. And I usually wind it up about 9:30 at night. So okay. It's a full day, and this goes on 7 days a week.
So what time do you go to sleep if you wake up at 5:15 in the morning?
I usually try and rack out about 20 after 11. So
that is early. For me anyway, that is early.
So what time do you get up though?
Well, I get around about 7:30.
Yeah. See, so that's what I say. I average about 5.5. If I get 6 hours sleep, that's good. On Saturdays, my schedule does change a little bit because I call that my sleep-in day. I get up at 6 o'clock. So I get that extra 45 minutes. That's it. That to me, 6 a.m. is sleeping in.
Wow.
But that's I guess if I finish up 9:30 or so, then my wife and I will sit there and watch a little bit of TV. Then, you know, about 11 o'clock, I'm all right. Let's call it a day, and then I start getting ready for bed. Usually about 11:20, I'm in bed.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Bob. Where can people go to find out more about your services and your website?
Well, actually, there's three of them. If they're interested in listening to the radio station, that's at evangelismradio.com. And like I said, it operates just like a traditional radio station. Top and bottom of the hour, there's usually new programs, unless it's an hour-long program. It's got commercials, which is really not really commercials like, hey, buy, Tide or something like that. Nothing like that. It's promotions for other people's programs is what it is. So you can call it a PSA or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a filler. If someone has a short program, let's say their program is 22 minutes long, and I'm filling a half-hour time slot, there'd probably be a couple of songs in there, some music at the end as filler. But that's the radio station, evangelismradio.com.
Mm-hmm.
The Kingdom Crossroads podcast is kcrpodcast.com. I also got a couple other podcasts on podcast training. Ask Bob podcast. That's really interesting. We didn't talk about that. Where people will ask me questions. I'll get emailed questions, and the more common ones, I have some episodes. What kind of microphone should I buy? So I'll talk about microphones. On that. And that's askbob.com.
Mm-hmm.
But then for the podcast training, if they have some information or want more information on podcast training, they go to podcast-training.com. Got that little hyphen in there, podcast-training.com. And as a matter of fact, what I'll do is I'm going to put together a free download package of training information just for your listeners. So
thank you.
It'll be podcasttraining.com/Chang. And when they click that link, it'll take them to the page, and they'll know they're on the right page because there'll be a video of me at the top, and when they play the video, it'll be talking about your interview. Okay, so that's how they know they get to the right spot, not just the URL, but that'll be the page. That video will greet them. And I'm going to give them the podcast creation checklist that we talked about way back at the beginning that I made. I give that to all of my clients. And if they follow the list from point one all the way through to the end, they in order. Okay, you can't go down to the monetization aspect when you haven't even loaded your first podcast to your platform. So you have to follow the steps in order. There's only like 14 steps, but if they go in order, one through completion, they will have their podcast up and running and possibly making some money on it when they hit the last step. Number two, if they go to my website, podcast-training.com, and they look under the services area, I have an ebook on there that I sell for $37. And that ebook basically follows the podcast creation sheet, but goes into a little bit more detail on it. Okay. So it'll actually explain what these steps are and a little bit more about how to do it. And I sell that for $37. I'll give them that one free as well. So they can have both of those just for listening to listening to me, putting up with me on your podcast. Okay.
That is excellent. Thank you. Bob, can you talk a bit about I know you have a one-on-one program or coaching on the podcast as well. Where's the link to that?
It's on the services, podcast-training.com, and the /services, or go up the menu at the top, click on services. It's right there. It's really it's one-on-one where we will have 1 hour a week where I just work with you, just like we're doing a video call right now, and it's just us, and we'll get homework to do before we talk next time, and it's the whole concept in that there's a group coaching program. The group coaching program, I guarantee you that within 2 months, it's like 6 to 8 weeks, you'll have your podcast up and running, if not sooner. With the one-on-one, it's 30 days. You'll have a podcast up and running in 30 days, but the actual access will continue for a whole year because we want to make your podcast better, not just get it up and say, okay, I'm done. Have a great day. Now we want to, help you promote it, get the advertising and all that. And so all that's explained on the services page.
Excellent. Great. Well, thanks for being on the show, Bob. Being a great guest. Thanks for the tips.
Oh, you're a great interview. You asked some great questions. Some of them I like, wow, okay, how do I answer this one? That was good. Made me think.
Okay.
I lost some more hair. So
Thank you, Bob. Thanks a lot, Bob.
Have a great day.